These kids are so eager to have this done and come in such good moods, and they're not frightened like kids you see here in the States.
No, they're really not. It's wonderful to see how trusting they are. And I think they just haven't been sensitized to doctors. They haven't seen them. They don't have any reason to fear, and they see us as coming to help. This is a great picture because it really shows what I think is wonderful about the Mexican culture is their family unit is very strong. You always see mother, father, child, and when one child's in the hospital, the other 3 or 4 are with them too. It's really, it's just special to see how close they are as families, and that's been the rule all throughout Latin America. I've been very impressed with that.
So the parents, as well as the community, are all very supportive of what you do.
Very, yes.
And the medical community there.
Correct. Yeah, the medical community doesn't have any orthopedists, but the medical
Right.
community there has been very helpful to us. And that's a child who had a birth palsy, couldn't move his arm, and we fit him for the cast before we put him to sleep, and then when they wake up, there's less cast to put on. And again, he's sitting in an operating room with a smile on his face, which is different than it is in our country. And that's just a pre-op exam. Another one of our translators there, and the mother on the right.
Is this the same day of surgery, or is this
No, we do all
prior to?
We do all our preoperative examinations either on the trips ahead of time or on that Sunday. And on that Sunday, we'll see, like I said, about 200 to 300 kids. And that's child post-op. And one of the great things about working there or any of the places we worked is our op note is on the cast. You see in Spanish.
I do see.
It tells what we did and when the cast comes off. So if one of these children did not come back to follow up, they could go to any hospital and the appropriate care would be done.
So you don't need a chart.
There is no chart. We have a chart on our computer, but the child doesn't need a chart. And that's just a little one getting ready to go to sleep.
You told me that you all always make sure that each child gets something, a toy, a gift, something from you all.
Yes. And we give them something when they come into the operating room and when they're in the pre-op area, a coloring book, a stuffed animal, something just to hold. And then we usually try to give them something else when they leave. That's a child with just basically club feet. Not terrible club feet, but club feet. And that's just a post-op cast. We put on cast in the recovery room when they're still asleep, in the operating room, and we also make them splints. So when the cast comes off, they've already got a pre-fashioned splint that they can use for their rehab. And we all do all that while they're still asleep, as well as we do blocks. So when they wake up, they don't really have any pain. And that's the recovery room area.
So how many surgeries do you do a day?
We operate for 5 days, so you figure we do somewhere around 30 a day.
That's a lot.
Sometimes up to 40, just depending on the day and the mix of cases.
That was a really good picture.
Yeah.
Of those feet. Are
feet.
those the same feet that we were seeing earlier?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I know this sounds like a really stupid question, and it should be obvious, but what is the goal? What is your goal with Kids First?
Our goal is, I think, really an extension of any healthcare provider's goal. Our goal is to make people's lives better. And what we do with our Kids First group is we try to go to a place where we can have a large impact. It's a place where there is no medical care, and we operate on children because we feel like the impact can be greater. If you can take a child who can't walk and enable them to walk, or a child who can't use his or her hand, then you have a much greater impact. So what we're trying to do is the same thing that we do here. We just are lucky enough that we have a specialty that is portable. We can take our work anywhere and have an impact. And like I said, do the same thing we do here, but just in an area where there is no care.
Did I ask you how this is funded?
I don't think so.
I'm asking you, how is this funded?
It is funded by ourselves.
Okay.
I apply to some grants all the physicians donate their own funds, and we pay for all our nurses' travel. So none of our nurses have to pay for their tickets or their any of their lodging or food in the country. And then we have to raise enough money to cover shipping of equipment, purchase of some operative equipment like OR packs that you can't get donated. And it cost us about somewhere between $45,000 and $50,000 a trip.
That's a lot, but I admire you so much for what you do, and especially for paying for the nurses. You said something a minute ago that I find really interesting. What kind of arrangements do you have to make with the government to come into their...
Mexico, like most countries, has its own set of rules. For Mexico, I have to take a list of every single thing that we're going to ship in and everything we're going to carry in on the plane, with the manufacturer, the expiration date, the cost, translate it into Spanish. I send it down to the government, they go over it, then I have to basically sign off on their approved list. In addition, I have to negotiate with the government for import licenses to bring our equipment in at the airport, and we negotiate with the hospital. It's basically the same every year, but it has to be redone every year. They very much insist on that formality.
Do you have to go down there to do any of this?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the trips I make is just to do all those things that really can't be done from a distance.
Accommodations for your team?
The accommodations are good in San Miguel. People donate their homes, and our team stay in usually 4 different homes. They're large enough that the whole team can be housed in 4, sometimes 5 homes. And local restaurants donate food. So our in-country costs are very low, and we stay in nice places. We've stayed in Colombia, for instance. The beds were covered with bugs. I mean, we stayed in some terrible places, and Mexico is very nice.
What about the living conditions for the kids that you operate on and their families?
Most of the children we operate on live outside in the country called the Campos, and their conditions are poor. Mexico is a very poor country. The state that we work in is called Guanajuato, and there's something like 6 million children who are listed as physically disabled. But of the group we work on, all of them are economically disabled. So their homes, most of them don't have running water. A lot of them don't have floors. They're dirt floors. A lot of them are small subsistence farms. They come from in small farming communities. So they're very, very poor people.
So just listening to you, this is a whole team effort, not just with your team, but with the town, the medical people in the town, the parents. Everybody's involved in this.
No question, and that's why San Miguel is such a great place, because the town has embraced our ideas, and we've worked together very well with them.
The medical facilities that they have, how are they?
We work in a hospital called the General Hospital. A new one was built about 3 years ago. It's very clean, it's very well maintained. They don't have a lot of equipment, but we own all our own equipment, so that's not a problem for us. But it is a very nice hospital, very well maintained, and the hospital chief, man named Jose Vidargas, is very, very good, very good doctor and easy to work with.
We've got about 3 minutes, believe it or not. I wanted to ask you, when will you be making your next trip?
Our next surgical trip is May 29th, I think. I will go down sometime before then and do my last screening trip to screen children for surgery.
If anybody wanted to make a donation, how could they do that?
The simplest way would be our website, which is kidsfirstortho.org.
I think Phil put it up there.
Kidsfirstortho.org, and they could also contact me through the office.
Okay. Anything else that you really want to say about this passion that you have? I know that you told me this is the reason you work.
It is.
To support this passion.
You're just nice to let me talk about something that's a true joy to me. And hopefully what it will do is make other people take whatever their talents are and use them to help other people. That's all that we would like people to think when they think of Kids First. And if someone were to become interested in Kids First, we always would appreciate donations too. But it's mostly, I think, just to say, take your talents and help other people.
I think that's great. Would love to invite you to come back after your next trip. I think it's very interesting to follow up and see what you're doing with these kids. So you have an invitation.
Well, as you know, I will accept.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. My next show will feature Valerie Braxton, and she's the Christmas coordinator for the Lynchburg Department of Social Services Foster Children's Christmas Program. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful evening and a very happy Thanksgiving. Good night.